Hi, everyone. It's June 6th, 2024, and this is the Backdrop Weekly Developer Meeting. I think we had a little hiatus. I'm not sure there was a recording last week, so it's great to be back. We're going to be talking about core issues today. There's a couple of issues with Backdrop 128 that need to be addressed, some new things with the icon API. And so we're going to talk about those, and we're also going to talk about simplifying or redesigning the login pages. Before we get going, I'll do some introductions. My name is Nate Lampton. I'm Quick Sketch on the internet, core committer and technical lead for the Backdrop project. I'm joined here by a half dozen other folks, and we'll go around the room and do some quick introductions. We'll start with Tim, and then we'll go to Joseph.
Hi, my name is Tim Erickson. I'm St. Paul Tim in the forums and on the internet, and I'm in Deerwood, Minnesota. That's all.
Great, thanks, Tim. Joseph, and then Jen.
Hi, I'm Joseph. I'm a developer from Las Vegas, Nevada, and core committer.
Thanks, Joseph. Jen, and then Savashri.
Jen
Okay.
Lampton
I'm mostly a
Yeah.
site builder, not really a developer, so I'm hanging out in the background.
Great, thanks, Savashri. Sorry about that. Jen, and then Greg.
Jen Lampton joining from Oakland, California. That's it for me.
Thanks, Jen. Greg, and then Eli, if you're available.
Yeah, I'm Greg. I'm joining from Melbourne, Australia. I'm a Drupal support engineer for hosting companies. My day job, but excited in anything UX and related, and anything related to Backdrop in any way that I can help. That's it for me.
Thanks, Greg. Eli. Oh, great.
Hello. My name is Eli. I'm a developer with Giant Rabbit, and I am in San Diego, California.
Great. Thanks, Eli. Okay, well, we'll jump right in. Today's topic du jour is issue 6570 for simplifying the login pages. I'm going to pull this up. Greg,
Before we go there, can we please discuss 3309 to just move that ahead, because that's where that issue originated from. So let's get that out of the way, and then we can jump to that.
Okay, great. I'll share my screen for discussing both of them. So,
yep.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So yeah, historically, this provides a lot of useful context. So remove the tabs from login, register, and password reset pages.
That's it.
Yeah. This is it.
So actually, I usually do before after. This is after before. So the before is the one with the horizontal tabs, and then that's the after, what we are going for.
Yeah. So yeah, these tabs are largely administrative. They're used heavily on administrative pages, but as far as I know, as far as I can remember, this is the only time tabs are ever shown on the front end of the site and using the front end theme.
Well, that in the edit, when you edit content, like the edit content view.
But yeah. So it's possible. I mean, it's possible to have lots of pages that use tabs, but yeah, the edit screen also is not by default using the front end theme, although it's possible to configure it that way. And so
the edit tabs are on the front end before you do the editing.
Oh, duh, I see.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
Yeah. But another thing too is that like you actually have to be logged in to see the tabs anywhere else, where on these pages, people who are not logged in see the tabs. So this is like the major place that anonymous users will see the tabs out of the box. And then of course, once you're logged in, you've got elevated permissions, but also any other permissions can be set to do anything anywhere. But for logged out users, it's a little strange to have them this very like Drupal-y back end feeling on those pages that they can still see.
Yeah.
But maybe not use.
Yeah, I was a big fan of this issue.
Yeah, I don't think that this is blocked anymore. Can you please scroll up so that the metadata can come up? So yes, so just needs a code review. I can't remember why it's set to needs work, but yeah, this has been moving along. people, because we blended in the other issue that we're going to discuss, basically maybe that's why the needs work is there, but maybe we can segue to the other issue and try to unblock that one as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, this one needs code review and it should be ready. It's considered a feature request. Oh, I now remember what it is. I think that the consensus that we need here is whether we are going to make that the default or provide an option for people to switch to the new thing so that it's backwards compatible. And if we're okay with that, then maybe gathering metrics about that along the way and deciding if in 2.0 or in a future version we switch which the default is. So I think that that's sort of like where we need the consensus. And it would be good if we get a comment from one of our core committees to say that we are in agreement so we can move that forward.
Yeah, it looks like in this current pull request, this is the very latest one, that it's indeed an option. It's a checkbox. And that looks like that's
if you can go back to the screenshot, please, Nate. Another thing, I think, scroll to the bottom, very bottom, the last comments. Okay. Oh yes, maybe where we show the settings, like there's a screenshot where we show.
here it is.
Yeah.
Sorry, there. I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't come to mind now why it needs work. Anyway, I need to look back into that, but at least we should have some comments to say what the consensus is. So if people can at least see the most recent comments and provide thumbs up, thumbs down, concerns, things like that, so that we can move it along. It's pretty close now that we pulled out the code that was adding the login things.
Do you remember, Greg, if there's currently an update hook to set a value there?
I do not remember, so
Okay.
that's why it's sort of like it needs review. So
Yeah.
I'll try to look back into that. I've been trying to unblock many people, so I've lost track of. I need to get back to that as well, unless someone beats me to it. Yeah.
Thanks for bringing this up.
Yeah, this is interesting. Let's talk about the other issue and how they relate to each other then. So this is the new issue. I'll let you take it away, Greg, on describing this one too, please.
Yes.
I'm not familiar with it.
Yeah. So we started implementing this as part of the previous issue, but then it evolved to be a scope creepy thing because there were different options for implementation. One of the implementations that was part of one of the pull requests in the other issue was to suppress the header and the footer and everything, and people had objections with that. The other alternative is to provide a custom layout specifically for all the login pages. I know that historically, Jen, you had objections with that. There's a comment where your objection is like not yet another layout to ship with core.
Yeah.
If you can add a comment there, my sort of like what is it called? The compromise there was that maybe we can ship with a layout but have it disabled by default, so it's out of the way. So instead of asking people to build one layout and figure out what the visibility conditions for it and so on and so on, we have it there disabled. And if people want to opt into this new design, they just enable that layout and it takes over.
Yeah, my concern was not about the how is my site built problem so much like the layout UI is already very complicated and I don't want to have anything there that is not necessary, and making something disabled there sort of makes that worse because now there's something there that you might not know yet how layouts can be disabled or why it's there. It's just sort of like a initial overwhelm issue.
Yeah.
But I do think that what we might be able to do is develop this in contrib first as a recipe and sort of iron out all the things that we might want to have in it. And then once people can actually see what it is and how it works, we'll get a better feeling if people are just like, oh yes, I absolutely want this in core, or if it does seem like something that isn't
that
important.
Yeah, so I'm on the other camp, but yes, okay. I would like to see that in core. The alternative of if you can add a comment, another concern I should say, sorry, before I lose my train of thoughts there, is that when we add a new layout, contrib and custom themes need to account for it. They need to add support for it, as in the template. And this is actually adding a new layout template that is specific for the layout to make it to center it and so on.
But if it's one column, there's no reason it should be a different
Oh,
layout.
some people want to add like they express like they want to add something as a header or a footer, but not at the very bottom of the page, just below and above the login screen. So
You can do that.
Yes,
Like
sorry.
this isn't actually a different layout. It's a different style.
So yes, that's a login. It's not a what you call it, a flexible, although it has that icon. So if you go to manage blocks, you will see the actual regions. So it has a footer, a header, and just the main thing, which is
Yeah, this is just the regular default boxed-in layout. There's no reason for a new template.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's a whole new template.
Yeah.
I think that the boxon doesn't center it or
Right, that's
something.
just CSS though. That's not a layout issue. Layout would be like if you need to place blocks in different places, like if you need different regions, that's a layout thing. This would be CSS that targets maybe only these pages, but on these pages says take the main region from boxed-in and like center it.
Yep.
I think we already do that with the home page. We take the main reason and like make it full width.
Yes.
Yeah, this would be like the opposite.
Yeah, and then the screenshots that you were scrolling through, Nate, was because certain people expressed the opinion that yes, I like it that way, or no, I do not like it. It's basically I tried to do a usability, UX, and popularity study to see what other software does with their login screens, and it seems that it's a common pattern. And this, as I explained, there is not that let's do what others do for the sake of doing what's popular, is because people are used to these interfaces. The Drupal and thing is like it gets way too confusing, and the UX, and I have some links of UX studies and recommendations specifically for login screens, and there seems to be a single tendency, or actually a couple of tendencies, but one of them, yep, there's the links in that comment after that. And the common theme is keep it simple. The task at hand is that people want to log in. They don't want to see ads or the other sections of your site. Just keep it simple, and that's the whole drive of this issue in the first place.
Yeah, I think that's going to be pretty easy to accomplish. I think this issue we talked about already adds a new visibility condition to determine whether it's one of these pages or not. Yeah, so that would be easy to accomplish via block settings, via layout settings, via whatever, if anyone wants to do it. So I think that was a good move.
Yes, and then now that you mentioned that, if we can segue, if you can, anyone, core committers or anyone can provide feedback either on the pull request or the desired direction or different suggestions. Let's do that to move things along and unblock Doc Wilmot, who's been creating those excuse me, those issues. And then I have another segue issue that I would like us to sort of like unblock.
Yeah, I have a question. First of all, I like the goal here. We've discussed simplifying the login page several times, and I'd really like to see something done to make it be better. Like I think all of these are a lot better than the default experience. And when people make their own themes, my experience at least, it's pretty rare to have the time or a design to implement a custom login page, because it's often for administrators only. It's not a real high priority for build outs.
Yeah.
What I'm gonna segue this. Maybe, Greg, I'm gonna ask the exact question that you're gonna lead this into. Have we also been looking at the use admin theme for login page issue? Is that tie into all of this work?
Yes and no. This could be a follow-up. Once we allow that, then if you scroll to the very top of that issue, what I've done is I provided a few screenshots. So that one would be not the final, but what it would look like if you would use the 7 theme. And maybe we can style it with the little square that has the folded icon on the bottom. Basically make the login screen similar to the installer screens that use if you use the 7 theme. If you use the basis theme, we can keep it simple as that, the one in the bottom. Or we can do the other two that I'm suggesting, like, and we have people like Wes, maybe he can spare some time to just because he's the one that created basis, maybe some direction here, but these are sort of like brainstorming things that I thought just to demonstrate the fact that if you change the color of the hero thingy, because this you can change it via the color module, then your login screen will change, which would allow people to sort of like implement their brand colors in the login screen if they want to. But yes, it was actually another issue that I wanted to bring up, which is 6569. And actually, Doc Wilmot borrowed some code from that pull request for his pull request on the previous issue. Basically, just the same way that we have an isAdmin, I want to add a path is login so that we can have a standardized way that can become a visibility condition even, or that other code can hook into. And also a way that contrib modules can specify that what they're building is actually belongs to that group of login pages. The use cases for that is the single sign-on modules that actually provide. So for core, we have the login page, reset password page, register page, and I think these are the three ones, or maybe there's a fourth that I keep forgetting now. But yeah, there's contrib modules that are adding the TFA module and the single sign-on modules that add to that, which should inherit that. So yeah, I think it's a small pull request. I can't remember. I haven't looked into to that in a long time. But yeah, it should be mimicking the code of path is admin basically.
Yeah, I like the concept here as well. And yeah, the name sounds fine and everything. User path is login.
Yes, and then there's a hook I think that I provide where we provide the basic login pages for core that and an override sort of like hook implementation that themes can sort of like declare their own login paths. Yeah, that's the API there.
What's patterns? Interesting. Oh, I see. This is for I got it. Well, I'm a little bit curious about the implode into a string. That seems strange, but I'm assuming that this is duplicated from
yeah, I think I haven't, it's been a couple of weeks or more since I looked. If you scroll a bit further down, basically, I think that the API, a little bit further.
You want to check? Okay.
So yeah, basically, there you go. So basically, themes, contrib modules can do that. And they can declare login paths the same way that they do with admin paths.
Yep. Yeah, makes a lot of sense.
The other things are just things to make PHPCS happy.
Yep.
Yeah, so we have reset. Why do I have? Oh, because there's reset asterisk if you have the one-time login that have the strings. Yes, that's it.
Because we have the when you do a password reset in Backdrop, it immediately asks you to change your password on the reset page, I believe. And so that might be what this is.
Yeah, so there's what you call small or a little bit larger missing pieces. One of them is that it won't solve the problem, but it will make it easier and sort of like consistent. And then the other thing is that the issue that you mentioned, the being able to use the admin theme, which is a whole thing on its own. It's not an edge case. For example, it would simplify because Gene is becoming a very popular theme, and in the Drupal world, it had the companion module of Gene login, which basically overrides the page. We would allow that in core, so we would allow the backdrop version of the Gene theme to basically perhaps all they would have to do is just this hook, implement this hook in a module, and that's it.
I see. Yeah, to simplify down the. Oh, yeah. Wow. Yeah, they could use this, not just implement the hook, they would actually use it to determine if they're on a login page. yeah, that password reset form would be a tricky one. Like I bet that most people would miss that in their first implementation, kind of like the issue itself did. Like it kind of forgot that that was a path. Yeah, like this. Like, yeah. Yeah, so this seems like a good idea.
Yeah, I like that too.
Right.
I have a question. Was it discussed doing this without layouts?
Yes, so there was in the previous issue, the 3309 issue,
Uh-huh.
there was a PR where Doc Wilmot worked on, and it was basically suppressing the header and the footer and everything, and people had objections about it. So basically, we had two possible implementations. Yourself, Jen, and maybe some other people were objecting to the new layout template and layout, and then we had objections, if I recall correctly, from Indigo Zella and maybe Herbdul about the layout suppression, that it didn't seem good to them. So we need to make a decision. If there's a third way to do it that people would prefer, just maybe recommend that as well. And then the point is that Doc Wilmot needed some direction on what to use for the implementation.
Yeah.
And he's also provided a comment of why he thinks that we should use one or the other, like the benefits.
Okay, I'll go read that. Thanks.
I'll try to see now if there's other issues that that need a blocking. Just bear with me. All right, SVG related issues. Maybe we should go there next when you're ready, Nate.
Yeah,
two.
let's go ahead and talk about SVGs too. Okay. All right, so yeah, there's some issues that have arisen with the new icon API. And so this issue 6577,
Right.
not quite a regression because the icon API is new in 128, but it's definitely an issue that it's pretty easy to get yourself into a fatal error situation in PHP 5 or PHP 7. It doesn't
Yeah,
seem
I forgot to comment. Actually, I added the question marks there. There was an actual error. I'll try to reproduce, and I forgot to come back and edit it. This is a placeholder, basically. I'll get more information on that.
yeah, I think it's because out of the box, the icons that are used by the admin bar and on admin landing pages don't specify alt text. And so this only arises if you've specified an alt text on an icon. And when the alt text tries to be added, it's added as a title element to the SVG when it's printed out. And that's where prepend is used, which is only a PHP 8 function.
Yeah, so I started discovering these issues, and there's quite a few of them follow up that have while I was working on 6480 that 87 issue, which is basically to 6487 is the link there. See how sorry?
Oh, okay.
Yes, that's the one. So basically, I'm trying to provide SVG icons for these things, right? And my so a few hiccups that I've come across in the original implementation of the SVG support, we added support for the path tag within SVG, but not lines, which is very common, and some other things that are missing. So there's things that are being stripped out that are preventing certain. They work for phosphor images that use paths, but there's other things that we're very restrictive. So if other people try to add custom SVGs, chances are that they're not going to be rendered properly because we are lacking that.
Yeah, I wonder what, yeah, this is, I'm just going to float this here and because it's maybe something that Indigo Zella was describing, maybe, I'm not sure if I've interpreted this correctly, that, yeah, you like using the icon API isn't necessarily a requirement for using SVGs. Like it's totally possible that we could end up in lots of situations where we should just switch to using SVG images, but not necessarily using the icon API. the icon API is most beneficial if a module is providing an icon that is intended to be used by other modules. Like Jen's like on the web module, for example, like if it wanted to provide icons
Right.
for social media sites, or the Font Awesome module wanted to provide a set of Awesome icons.
Right.
But
And then we fall into the case of, remember when I was working in that old issue before we have SVG, where I wanted to generate automatically PNG images for flexible layouts according to the regions. So that, yeah, so now I'm trying to do that with SVG lines, and this is a blocker now because I'm trying to use to register that as a library. And then I came across all these issues. First, lines are not supposed. If you add any SVG that is defining lines instead of paths, it's not. It's stripping it out. And for example, the addition to that is that if you scroll a bit up, that's the added bonus. The screenshot that I have there now. Contrib layouts can specify, instead of a PNG image, so basically in their .info file, they would specify screenshot or something like that. I can't remember, equals something something .png, or you could say screenshot equals something .svg, and that's fine, that you would have to provide it. But if you wanted to use the phosphor icons, you couldn't do it. Now what I'm allowing with this pull request is, if they don't specify an extension and they specify a name of the phosphor icons, then it automatically pulls up. So they can declare icons that are in the phosphor set either now or in the future as we update it. So there's some added bonus to that.
It's really interesting.
Yeah, and yeah, I also find this kind of interesting. Like, I wonder. I really, first, just as an aside, I really like what's going on here with the default region.
I like it as well. I hope you
Looks
like
great.
it.
Looks great. Love it.
Yeah, I like that.
Yes, the only problem is the Rolf, because it doesn't have a main region. It doesn't specify which region. So I went on a fluke there with just randomly picking one just for consistency. That's a separate issue to discuss. But yeah, it sort of like gives a visual representation of what the main region is and where your main content thing is going to end up to. So
Yeah.
so again, there's a lot of missing pieces and blockers. But yeah, so yeah, this is where I'm explaining that previously it's called preview equals something. That's it. So instead of doing that, you can do that.
Yeah, I'm just putting out there as another. I don't know if we really want to get into this, but I think that Drupal in its layout system, because they've got a little heavier emphasis on using custom layouts, that the preview actually creates an SVG based on the configuration. And so it's actually kind of automatic. It assembles an SVG.
Yeah, and we can do that with our flexible layouts.
Yeah.
Templates, but we cannot do it with these because they're just PHP files, and you have to parse the code in the PHP.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So for these, I just created very simplistic, and because I'm using lines, they're very small in size as well. It's just declarations of lines, and it's easy to add classes in those lines, and that's what I'm doing basically. The core provided SVGs, and actually provided a separate pull request where it's just the SVGs. So if you can go, because I think that by default GitHub renders those as binary files, but if you look at the code of the actual SVG, so these are the removals, it's actually in the layout. So if you need to scroll a bit further down, I think.
Oh, hang on, I might have a window size problem here. No, that's the bottom.
I have a quick question.
Yes.
What was the thing you would have to parse the template file for?
In order to be able to determine what regions are being specified and what lengths they have and how they're located, so that it can be generated.
Okay.
Because flexible templates specify rows, it's very easy to do that. They specify rows and widths. Whereas in custom ones, we use flexible, it's in the code. You might have, what is it?
It could be anything depending on how
Left,
the layout
yeah, what do you call it? The thing that we use, the clear thing.
floats.
Yes,
Float.
yes.
It could be
Yeah,
using
float left
float,
or
it could
right.
be using
Yeah.
grid, it could be using flexbox. Like there's so many different ways a theme might or a
Yes.
layout might choose to handle
Okay.
its layout style that it's hard to guess what its visual representation is yet.
So Nate, when you scroll there, isn't there any SVG file added?
No, it looks like they might be missing from the pull request. Because there's no SVGs in here, it doesn't look like.
Do I have two pull requests maybe? Maybe
There's only one referenced right now, but that doesn't mean there might not be another one that's not.
Sorry. I think that what I've done is I created two. Maybe you clicked the commit that adds, because I split it to two commits, one that adds the SVGs separately. Did I do something wrong?
Smaller set of changes, but this is the whole pull request, it looks like. 4769.
Huh. Yeah, I'll have to look at that again. But yeah, my point is that the SVGs are basically an SVG tag and then line tags, like for each row, that is specified there. They're very simplistic.
Yeah, so that's good. If I'm understanding correctly, then the new behavior actually is just replacing these with SVGs, but still not actually, it's not exposing them as icons, like with hook icon info.
No, I think that the only hook implementation is to allow, is to allow that thing that happens where you can, in the .info file, specify a phosphor icon and use that.
Yeah.
I think that's the only thing that it's doing, but I'll have to revisit.
Yeah, I'd be curious to hear people, I mean, just kind of hear people's impression here on this preview equals an icon name.
That's interesting. I'm a little bit like my initial thought is, wow, cool. That's something we hadn't thought of as a use for icon API. But then when I think about it more, I feel like it might end up with people just specifying like a random icon instead of providing a preview that's actually valuable for what they're building, just because it's easy to just use something that's already there. Yeah.
Right, and that's why I tagged this issue, I think, with documentation as well, because it's it's very simple to create SVG like as templates, and I thought that maybe we can pair that with documentation in the API side on how I created those. It's like 5 lines of code to create the SVG previews for people. But my thought there was that the phosphor icon is not static, like it gets improved. New icons are being added. So at some point, like it even has a version. So at some point, from time to time, we will be updating the phosphor set that is in core. And we have requests because it's in GitHub to, for example, add the backdrop logo there, or it might add shapes or whatever that people can use. That was my thinking. But yeah,
I still
I'm
feel
happy.
like having that icon here doesn't really add any value to this interface. Right?
Yeah,
Like
for
I have no
example,
idea what that's going to look like when I click
yeah,
on
yeah.
it. And if we did this for layouts, the same thing would be true for modules and themes. And so everything would now get like a random phosphor icon associated with it, where maybe you'd really rather have someone thought about that and figured, rather than just referencing something that's already there, figuring out what the right solution is for that particular problem. So it's something where it's like really easy for people to do, but I also feel like making it so easy will mean that people will stop thinking about it. So I don't know. I feel like
I think
conflicted on this one.
Yeah. I think what I've done is because I was trying to provide one for the flexible layouts, and I said, no, that's a separate issue. Let's go back to the old issue that I was working on with PNGs. And I was trying to find a phosphor icon that would look like the thing with the bricks that we had or whatever. Or I wanted at least to communicate that this is editable. It's a thing that you can edit. That's why I chose the ruler and pencil thing icon for that. And while I was trying to implement that, I go, wait a minute, we could do it that way. And that's what I've done it. So since I was doing it for core, I go, yeah, Contrib might want to do it.
Yeah, I
Hmm.
still think it's maybe not.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. I'll
not
remove.
valuable.
I can remove that bit. Yes. Fair enough.
Yeah. I do think it's an interesting experiment though, and I would, I would encourage playing with that in Contrib and seeing, maybe there are other really good things we could
Here it
benefit
is.
from doing that,
There's
but
the.
maybe let's not do it yet.
Oh, that's Indigo Zealous. Sorry.
Yeah, this is Indigo Zealous approach, which is
I don't know what's going on. Just bear with me. I'll go check real quick because now it gets interesting.
yeah. Is there even any? Oh, she didn't. There's literally nothing in here. It's literally like there's no code change whatsoever. It's literally like you'll start using SVGs, and because it renders as an image tag, it just
Works.
is fine. Yeah.
That's great.
I wonder why
I
she
love it.
closed this. I'm sure it's
Probably
probably in
because she
here.
saw Greg's and was like, yes.
Oh yeah, I always started suggesting that you should tweak your SVG icons so that they allow to be colorized the same way
Colors.
that
Yeah.
phosphor. Yes. So for
Oh,
example,
I
if you use them in the gene theme, and this is what I'm trying to demonstrate there, if you use the hues that the gene theme has support for, then these would reflect the. And also when you theme it, you can specify the color of the text, and then it will follow. It will follow that thing. There's another issue that we have all related to that, as I say, that's like it's pieces of the puzzle that will come together where we want to highlight the one that is chosen. We don't want it to show as gray. We want to show it as blue or whatever, right? And with PNG icons, we couldn't do that easily. We had to use some gimmicks, some CSS gimmicks to add sepia or whatever, right? Which wouldn't work with any other icons that were PNG and they were not gray, for example. With SVG, you can now do it because you just specify the color in CSS. That's it. So yeah, there's a lot of missing pieces of the puzzle that will come together and create a good thing, but it's just there's a few blockers. Just bear with me. One of the blockers that I would like, because we only have 5 minutes, there's so many things to discuss, is that the limitations with bear with me.
Nate, do you happen to have a tab open for the remove tabs from login pages?
Yep.
Can you drop that link into the agenda?
Let's see. Somewhere in here. Here it is. Last one.
I put it, that's okay. I put it at the top. That's okay. I'll fix it.
Oh, yeah. On that issue, the 6577 that needs to be done to unblock it, the PHP compatibility. Going back to that, it's
yeah.
basically a single line of code and the tests added by Indigo Zella. So if you look at the pull request for that one.
This one looks good. I already looked at it and I was like, oh yeah, this is super simple fix. Like it's it's actually kind of funny that.
Yeah, so that was available only for PHP 8 and that it was throwing errors. So that's an easy one that we can get to. And then the other issues that I have are related with our XSS stripping, like the sanitization things that we are using. Bear with me. The functions that we use in core, they're very limiting and they're stripping out. Yes. So the Drupal 8 versions have deviated a lot, and that's a larger subject. But my point was that I was using some properties that are allowed for line paths in SVGs, and those properties are X1, X2, Y1, Y2. And these are basically coordinates of where the line is going to end. And it's not just for these SVG icons, it would be for any SVG icon. We are just stripping that out, and we're not making it possible. So what I've done is from all the changes that were applied to in recent versions of Drupal in the filter XSS attributes function, I just pulled a single change that changes the what you call it, there you go, that's the one. Changes basically the regex, yes, to allow for things to start with a letter and have a digit. That's all I've added.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
There's some discussions with Kiam Laluna and myself looking at the what does the standards specify. So we have been going through the standards, the HTML and XML standards, to see how attribute names should be done. And we are seeing that, for example, the Drupal code and the Backdrop code, both old and new, Drupal 7, 8, 9, 10, and Backdrop, have this in the first bit of the regular expression, that dash, which means that they allow attributes to start with a dash, which is not allowed, and so on. So this is a pre-existing issue, and I don't want us to get hold on that. Yes, we should solve it. But the main decision here is, do we tweak the existing XSS attribute functions, or do we create a separate one specifically for SVGs, so that because if we make it too permissive, we are allowing XML things into things that should be HTML. So should we have two functions? Because we already have the filter XSS admin, and I was thinking maybe we can have a filter XSS SVG specifically, or XML. So I need committer input on that, but at the end of the day, I just need those 2 lines added so that I can get moving with the rest of the issues that I started working in the pull requests. So if we can agree on that being a good thing in the interim, just to unblock me, that would be great as well, because I imagine that refactoring the whole, these are security related, refactoring the whole thing is going to delay a lot.
Yeah. For what it's worth, if starting an attribute with a dash is against the HTML spec, which I think it is, and I think that's what was in the comments here, I would be in support of just nixing this leading dash, because you've got it in the second spot, which means that that would already fix the problem. I think it looks kind of like maybe whoever wrote this regular expression, for starters, was just trying to keep it simple,
Yes. Yeah.
And didn't account for digits.
Specs.
And so I would be in favor of just removing this leading dash.
Okay.
Because you're already adding the second thing, and it's already going to account for dashes, and so there you go.
Okay, and I'll leave the wider sort of like refactoring of these filtering functions to follow up issues. I'll just focus on that if we can unblock it. Okay.
I think unfortunately we're out of time.
We're out of time.
And I've got another engagement to get to.
Sure.
But yeah, what a whirlwind, Greg. Thanks for taking
That's only the tip of the iceberg, and I tried to unblock Doc Wilmot, but I'm sure that I forgot people. There's other people that need unblocking. There's so many things that happened. Maybe to be continued for next week, or if anyone wants to have a sprint.
Yeah, I didn't remember to take a look at these, but those regressions, the icon API especially, should be marked as a 128.1 issue if it's not already. And then I can focus on that, because that's a big enough issue that there's just literally something broken, like one of our headline features in PHP 7, even though PHP 7 is officially not supported anymore, but there's a lot of sites out there.
Were you thinking that maybe soon-ish we should do a bug fix release? That's what we're getting at?
Yeah, that's what I'm getting at. Yeah, that we should work on getting a 128.1 out there.
If you decide to do a sprint on that, just let me know in Zulip, and I'll make time to help along.
Okay, great. Well, let's wrap it up for today. Thank you, Greg, for the tour, and thank you everybody else for joining this meeting as always, and thank you to our viewers out there. So really appreciate it and all the work that we do every day. So.